Hello and welcome to Internet People, a podcast for creatives who are smart, self-aware, and chronically online. I'm Anna.
And I'm MJ.
And today we are getting into our brutally honest review of The Bare Minimum Artist's Way. We are going to be recapping the last 12 weeks. Can you believe we made it? Who said ADHD people can't finish things?
We fucking made it.
When we were prepping for this episode, we were saying if we didn't have the accountability of doing these podcast episodes, we for sure would have given up. I think it definitely goes to the point of doing this in community and doing this with other people or with some kind of accountability mechanism, like publishing a weekly blog or uploading a weekly podcast, hosting a weekly group, posting a weekly Instagram video, whatever it is that you do. As many of you will remember me saying that was my kind of origin story on TikTok, was doing the artist's way and uploading a weekly video every Sunday and just recapping some of my favorite parts. That was how I made it through the first time. And doing this podcast and doing it together is how we made it through this time.
Definitely the community aspect and publishing something as the weeks go on, because we've been putting up podcasts. Anna has been writing these fantastic blogs based on our notes that have been going up on Substack. So shout out to Anna. And also, I think the other half of that coin that helped us get through was the fact that we did the bare minimum of the artist way. Because realistically, if we were going to do all of the artist states, one a week, if we were going to do 12 weeks of morning pages, and if we were going to do every task and exercise in this book, I mean, what? We did 20%?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
We did 20% of what Julia Cameron is recommending, and look how much we got out of it. That is what's blowing my mind.
I know. I think definitely having these discussions every week really deepened that ability to get so much out of the artist's way. But even if all you're doing is reading the text, like there's so much to be gained from just reading the text. And just to recap, maybe this is the first time you're listening to us talk about the bare minimum artist's way. So our initial guidelines for doing the bare minimum artist's way were just focus on reading the book. Just try to read through, lower the bar for yourself so that you don't give up on week 3 like most people do. The other 2 major requirements that Julia Cameron outlines in the Artist's Way are to do weekly artist dates and to do daily morning pages, which is just stream of conscious journaling for 3 pages, which, all of that sounds really nice. The way that the Artist's Way is structured is just pretty inaccessible to most people. And so write the morning pages if and when you want to, however much you want to. Don't worry about doing 3 pages, and then take yourself on artist dates if you feel like it, if you can, if you want to. And it was really fun to see our community get involved in this. We'll get into some community reflections a little bit later on, but it just is really cool to see the way that lowering the bar for something can make it feel so much more expansive. And that's not what you usually think when you think about doing less than is typically expected, especially because we're all a bunch of recovering perfectionists around here.
And I think that's the cool part, is that we all have this evidence now in our bodies of the fact that doing the bare minimum or lowering the bar, doing less, can result in these life-altering changes. Like when most recovering perfectionists and overthinkers and sensitive souls who are trying to be more creative and feel more like themselves, it can almost feel wrong and bad to think about doing something the bare minimum way. Like it just doesn't feel like that's going to be the thing that really does it for me, that really makes a difference. But it just goes to show that if what you have to do to stick with something is lower the bar and make it easier for yourself, then that's what you have to do. And there's no shame involved in that, because I certainly don't feel shameful getting to the end of this. I couldn't be prouder of us.
Yeah, I'm so proud of everything we've accomplished, everything we've learned, everything that's come about in doing this process. One of the other things I was thinking last night when I was going through the book again to try to figure out, what were the parts of this book that really jumped out at me? One of the biggest chapters for me was chapter 6 about abundance. And I wouldn't have probably gotten there if I didn't do the bare minimum. If lowering the bar for yourself is what helps you get through something, like there's lessons at every point in the journey. And if we give up too early, we don't get to those lessons.
Right. If you're doing everything by the book for 3 weeks and you're waking up and writing 3 pages and going on artist dates and doing all these exercises, if you burn out by the 3rd week and you stop, you're not any more moral or full of valor, or you're not going to get a cookie for that. Like you lose nothing by lowering the bar to be able to sustain the activity for longer. You lose nothing. In fact, you gain more, as far as I'm concerned.
I'm glad you brought up the word burnout too, because I think that's a very real risk if you do the artist's way the way that it's laid out. I mean, we got to the point of feeling burned out a couple of weeks ago. And granted, putting out this podcast every week is a huge commitment for us. But when it comes to actually what we got out of the book, that was very much like bare minimum behavior on our part. But if you are holding yourself to a standard that's unrealistic, like handwriting 3 pages every morning, you're going to burn out. You're going to give up. And like I was just saying a few minutes ago, you're going to miss out on some of the wonderful things that come from actually just making it easier for yourself and choosing the path of least resistance. Why do we think that that's a bad thing?
Yeah, that's what Google Maps does. That's the logic behind pretty much any GPS software. Is it's not like, do you want to take the hardest route ever so you can feel extra good about yourself when you get to your destination? No.
Something else about the artist's way, just in general, whether you do it the prescribed way or the bare minimum way, is it's a spiritual upgrade. Like, oh my gosh, that in and of itself is kind of an exhausting experience. And it wasn't until I was talking to my best friend a few weeks ago when the burnout of doing this was like setting in around, was it probably week 9, I want to say?
That's what I was going to say. 9, 10. We were like, oh boy.
My friend reminded me that when you're doing this deep inner work, it's like physically tiring. It's exhausting. And you do really have to take care of yourself. One thing that she's always good at reminding me is when life gets hard or when something feels difficult, that's the time to dial up the self-care. That's the time to go to bed earlier, drink more water, take yourself on more walks, like whatever it is that you do that makes you feel better. So it was a really good reminder from her a few weeks ago of like, oh yeah, we still have a few weeks left and I really need to take care of myself so that I can finish this race strong. I would rather finish a race strong than stumble and crawl to the finish line because I like had to do the most.
Not even stumbling to the finish line. You broke your ankle at the 3rd mile because you were sprinting. Your car broke down 10 miles into the road trip because you cranked that shit into 5th gear. And if doing the bare minimum means going 10 miles under the speed limit the entire trip to get there safely and to get there feeling calm and good, then so be it.
I have a question for you. Since this was your first time going through the artist's way, I would love to hear just your overall reflection of the book and what the process has meant for you.
Oh boy. I think I had listened to the audio of chapters 1 and 2 a year ago, but even with audio, I didn't get through it. It reads like a combination between some kind of creative manifesto / spiritual text while also being rooted in practical ideas and practical examples of what she's talking about, which is why I think I was able to make it all the way through without like mentally checking out. I'm not a fan of philosophical text that doesn't have any concrete examples in there. And I loved all of the different examples from her life that she used and people that she's encountered and the examples of exactly how certain blocks come up in people's lives, because I feel like it helped me clock them in my own life. But then beyond the book, I feel like talking it out with you every week was what really helped me synthesize the information, because we got to talk about it and how it applied to our lives, how it applied to each other's lives. So, you know, we're 2 mirrors bouncing stuff back and forth off each other, and how it applied to our business and the internet and personal branding. And I think that's what was the most beneficial thing, was the community.
I would agree. This is the first time I've done it one-on-one with somebody, and it was a really great experience. I mean, you and I have a deep relationship already as co-founders, but I think we got to know new sides of each other too in this experience. So doing this with a friend would be a really fun way. Like grab a coffee every Saturday, like standing coffee date for 12 weeks. You can do that.
Or even like a standing voice memo date. Like, really? It doesn't have to be that complicated.
Just for a peek behind the curtain, when we would prep these episodes, because of the way the book is laid out, it's so topical section by section. We would just kind of go through each section and pull out the parts that really resonated with us. So if you were to do this with one other person, like that's basically your formula. Just literally go through the book, what you highlighted, what you underlined, and those are all of your discussion topics.
And the other part about doing it with somebody else was that sometimes I didn't notice something that was written in the book, but you would, and you would be really excited about it, bringing it to the meeting and almost help me find a new pathway into the point she was trying to make, where maybe the way she said it wasn't landing. I just needed to keep talking about it. So one of the biggest things that I took away from this was the difference between getting something down versus thinking something up. And when I initially read the chapter, I think this was maybe chapter 11, it was at the end, or chapter 10, I didn't really clock it. I didn't highlight it. I didn't type it out into our notes, but you came and you were like, oh my God, this is like life changing. And you talked about it for the subsequent weeks. And it was a sleeper for me. Like this one now, like literally has changed my life. And I feel like it's because you brought it up. And then last week, I have an ongoing kind of beta client relationship with my friend and listener, Nate. And I was helping him with his Substack. And he actually brought up, oh my God, getting something down versus thinking something up. That broke my brain. I'm like, oh my God, Anna had the same reaction. And so we spent most of our hour talking about his Substack format that we're trying to develop, and bringing in that new perspective pretty much changed everything, because it was no longer, okay, what segments do we think would work? And it's more, okay, Nate, what would be easy to capture every week? And that evening he published his first thing. And so not doing this fully in a vacuum, I think, was probably the best thing we could have ever done.
There were many times when we would be planning our outlines for episodes and you would be like, oh my gosh, this section. I'd be like, where was that? I literally didn't even, I feel like I didn't read that. And I think that's one of the cool things. So this is my third time through The Artist's Way, and it's fun to go through it multiple times, especially if you have the physical copy of the book, because you'll see stuff you outlined on a previous version of yourself and be like, oh, yep, still resonates. And then you'll come across other stuff that you're like, I didn't even, wherever I was in my process of life, the last time I did this thing didn't fully click for me. Like the getting something down versus thinking something up is so relevant for me where I'm at in my career right now, and wouldn't have been the last time I went through The Artist's Way, because now my career is so much oriented around knowledge sharing and producing content through our newsletters, through our podcasts, through my personal newsletter now. And I can't constantly be chasing after ideas. This is another thing I've really been working on, is like the forcing, chasing, pushing energy is no good to me anymore. I'm not interested in it. I refuse to do it. So what does that leave me with? It leaves me with paying attention to what's really actually happening and drawing from that well, versus trying to like dig through a giant rock to find a water source.
I just freaked out. If you're watching this on YouTube, this will be on YouTube, by the way. So if you want to see our faces, head on over there. As you were saying, giant rock, I was getting the metaphor of, it feels like getting something down is when you kind of skim something off the surface of a pool with one of those nets, like you're just skimming the leaves off the top. Whereas thinking something up and the grinding and pushing and chasing is like mining for gold, like chipping away at a mountainside, hoping that you're going to find something. It's like two very different experiences.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great way of putting it. Yeah, I think you spend enough time doing that forceful, grinding energy and not getting anything back. I think I'm almost grateful for the gift of not having gotten a lot out of my grind, because then I can give it up earlier in my life. If that was still rewarding to me, and it was for a very short period of my adult life, but if that was still rewarding to me, I would still be in it.
I think we should talk about what's changed for us over the past 12 weeks, because it feels like it's been an eternity, but it's been a quarter of a year, like 3 months. That's it. Such a blip in the grand scheme of things, but such big changes. So I want to hear what yours have been.
Yeah, it simultaneously feels like it's been forever and no time at all, but so much has changed. I think the reason why I wanted to do The Artist's Way at the beginning of the year, actually, it was kind of random. I started feeling in December like this itchy feeling that I wanted to create more for myself. We've been, speaking of grinding, really grinding on internet people for the last couple of years. And I started kind of feeling like I'm loving this thing so much that's not loving me back. So, what happens if I just take my foot off the gas of what we're doing and figure out what I could create? And about that same time, I had just launched my Substack, and I was pretty quickly feeling like, oh, this feels right to me. And I don't know what could come from this, but I know that this platform feels like the right place for me to be, and writing feels like the right thing for me to do. And so in January, I was like, fuck it. Let me just crack open The Artist's Way and see what happens. And I think I was, what, 3 weeks in when we had a conversation about doing it together.
I think you were only 2 weeks in, because I remember you weren't far.
I wasn't far. Then we decided to do it together. And I think this is how all of these things go, where it's like your soul just nudges you, like just quick little nudge in the direction of something. And you can either shut it down or you can go, oh, okay, let me just see what this is about. You can approach it with curiosity and openness. And I think that is maybe the thing that I had really lost in the last couple of years is that curiosity and that openness because I was so in survival mode. Definitely there's been a lot of physical changes. Starting the Brilliance experiment was a big one, and that happened because I was 2 weeks into the artist's way actually, because I started that simultaneously to when we started doing this together. So the Brilliance experiment is my year-long Substack journey, weekly essays discussing these little tiny experiments I'm doing to feel more alive and connected to myself. And that's been a really beautiful experience. There's 30 people in that community now, and we get to do these experiments together every single week. And I'm doing weekly essay uploads. And that process of weekly publishing about these experiments is just getting easier and more fun for me. It's creating more space for more topics that I want to write about. And I just got my YouTube up and running last week. I have started singing again, painting again. I feel like I really relaxed around a lot of things in this process. And that was what I needed more than anything else was the return to ease, pleasure, joy, fun, lightness. For the last couple of years, I've had this interest about brain rot and overstimulation and what technology and doom scrolling and constantly being on our phones is doing to us. Oh, I didn't tell you this. I came across a series of videos from 2018 when I first started noticing the brain rot and the phone addiction setting in. And it is so interesting to look at those now and be like, whoa, that seed got planted way back then.
7 years ago.
7 years ago. This was definitely one of those synchronicities during the Artist's Way. I did an interview with the Australian Broadcasting Corporation because they came across one of my Substacks about brain rot, and they're doing a podcast series about what digital overwhelm is doing to people. And that again is like, you put out your work and you're not really sure if anybody is listening or if it's doing anything. And then randomly one day, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation reaches out. Anyway, I digress. It's crazy to think about how some of these seeds take a long fucking time to germinate. This time through the Artist's Way really gave me that kind of perspective on my creativity, my passion, and where I want to go from here.
It's so obvious too. Like, if I didn't know all the projects that you were doing behind the scenes, I would be able to tell that something has shifted. You're more confident. I feel like you're showing up more vibrantly. It's all these things that you say is the point of your Brilliance experiment. They're working. I mean, this has worked for you. I can tell. It's been very cool to witness. And for both of us, honestly, I'm stoked to see what the fuck happens next, because I said this a few weeks ago. I almost felt like this has gone so fast that I'm a little overwhelmed and I haven't felt time to integrate fully. And a lot of my changes have happened in, a few steps away from home plate right at the end. And it's just the beginning.
Yeah, I feel like you've really, in the last 3 weeks, something has unlocked for you.
Yeah. And observing you, I feel like I could tell starting from the beginning, because you started the Brilliance experiment, 2 weeks before we started formally together. And I feel like it's only been up from there from you.
Thank you for saying that. It's nice to feel seen.
Yeah, no, you should be extremely proud of yourself. And I hope you are.
Thank you. It's funny. I actually was looking at my YouTube channel, looking at a video I posted back in August, I think it was, and looking at the one I just put up last week. And I'm like, whoa, that's a different person.
The way you talk into camera is different. The way you show up on Instagram stories is different. And I can tell because I've known you for this long. I feel like if anyone would be able to tell that, it's me, because we stare at each other through the screen all day, every day for fucking 5 years now.
One of the biggest things for me, I think, was the recognition that getting stuck happens because we stop paying attention, because we check out of ourselves. We're in survival mode, or we're overwhelmed with life. Maybe we're just going through the motions of life, which I think was where I was at toward the end of last year, which is why doing the Artist's Way, doing the Brilliance experiment felt so right, because it's like, okay, what does it feel like to go back in and retrieve that vibrant version of myself that didn't go anywhere? I just don't know where it is. I just have to go back and find it. And so getting stuck is unconscious, but staying stuck is a choice. And that really was kind of why I came into the Artist's Way guns blazing, because I was like, okay, no more stuck. I don't want it.
I was very much in the same place as you in December. I remember doing some deep soul searching. I mean, dark night of the soul, December and January for me. And I feel like it took me until week 5 or 6 to realize how stuck I was. I could feel it, but I hadn't named it. And I think it hit me about midway. Oh shit, some changes are going to have to happen.
Do you remember what it was that kind of dislodged that stuckness for you?
I don't remember what chapter it was in, but I think it was about meeting the universe halfway and trusting that it's going to take you somewhere good, because I've not shut up about this point since I came across it. But I think something about that really landed. And I realized that I'm not meeting the universe halfway. I'm not giving it anything to take me anywhere cool. I'm just fucking sitting here hoping for something to happen. I'm sitting against the tree in the forest waiting for somebody to come find me instead of actively searching for a river. And I think doing it together, and specifically with you in the circumstances that we've been in, I was watching you make moves from the jump. And so it was really inspiring to feel like, oh shit, I haven't been doing anything like for the past year. I feel stuck. And then I started to spiral about how to get out of it. What's my plan? Which is when we were presented with the chapter about getting something down versus thinking something up. And that, I think, was the change for me. I've been more interested in the whole tech rest, brain rot, overstimulation piece, I feel like for the past year or two, because I feel like I've noticed it in my life and the differences it's making. I feel like I'm having my 2018 awakening like you had. And so I wrote here in my notes that this whole book for me boiled down into one sentence that kind of feel like instructions to me now are: get quiet, make stuff, and trust that it's going to work out. The get quiet is put your fucking phone down and stare at the sky, or just stop listening to stuff 24/7. Get quiet so you can hear yourself. Make stuff without overthinking, without overplanning, without scheming and plotting, without worrying what you're going to charge for it, or if it's going to be a side hustle, or where it's going. Fucking make stuff, and then trust that doing those two things over and over again is going to lead you to where you want to be. That's the whole book for me. I came into this knowing the get quiet piece. I know I got to get quiet. I know I'm overstimulated, but the other two pieces I was missing. And seeing you make moves and hearing you talk about how you don't want to identify with the stuckness anymore, I was like, I don't want to identify with the stuckness anymore. And I want to make moves, but I didn't know how because of the overthinking. So it really took me practicing being a little random and haphazard and making shitty art and writing shitty sentences, because that was another huge reflection, is that I don't do enough of that. I don't do enough creating without completely thinking where it's going to end up. And over the past week specifically, if you guys remember, I colored on a Jimmy John's bag for like 90 minutes one night during dinner. And since that day, I've had art supplies on my kitchen table. I've completely colored a second bag, and it's probably been at least 1 to 2 hours a day that I'm just like literally scribbling onto the paper. My screen time is down. I'm not picking my cuticles incessantly anymore. I'm not feeling as worried about what everybody else is doing. And it's like, oh shit, this stuff really works. Like, this really is the key. And here I am trying to, okay, what's my new offline routine going to be? Should I start using my markers more? Well, what am I going to color? What am I going to draw specifically? Fuck that. Fuck that.
I feel like I want to stand up and give you like a standing ovation right now.
Thank you. I will take a seated ovation. I appreciate that.
Also, Jimmy John's, give this girl a partnership.
No, literally, literally. This is what I mean though. And I feel like this whole concept of tap into what you think is cool, make it without worrying about how it's going to land or anything, and then trust that doing that over and over again is going to keep working, has completely shifted my outlook on the personal brand. Because personal branding and niching for the online creative has been something that I've been thinking about probably for 4 years now. Like, something I want to make a curriculum about and help people do, because it is such a mind fuck. Everybody wants to plan their internet persona before they even post a single video. And this feels to me like the entire curriculum. Get quiet, make shit, and keep doing that. And your personal brand is going to be a byproduct of whatever happens. That's it. Because, 2 years from now, if I have a Jimmy John's partnership and I'm selling my ironic, shitty art on an Etsy shop, and that's most of my income, sorry, how the fuck was I going to plan that? How?
The overthinking is so attractive because it gives us a sense of control over something that is fundamentally out of control. This theme, I don't think I noticed it as much as I did this time through The Artist's Way, how much this idea of the release of control is woven throughout every single chapter of this this book because that is fundamentally the creative process. It is wild, it is unpredictable, it is out of control.
And that's why everybody picks up the book. I feel like the control issues are the reason. Whatever the behavior is, I would guarantee that pretty much everybody who picked up this book has some flavor of control issues under that. And it's funny because as I'm sitting here being like, you've been making moves from the beginning, I have felt in comparison, like I haven't been making as many moves that are visible. And as I was reflecting on the past 3 months and writing out what's changed for me, I'm like, oh, that's not true. That's not true. I started a Substack format to help me get things down and to build in public, which is something I've always been interested in doing. So I started putting out weekly field notes, and I've published 8 of them so far, and I haven't missed a week, even though I've been late, which is not something that a former version of me would have done. I would have given up the minute I was a minute behind. I have 2 virtual assistant clients now, so I opened up a completely different way to make money for myself. And I'm discovering that it's good for me to have work like that outside of my creative work, which is not something I would have considered before going into this. And I also opened up this brainstorming container that I've been dreaming about for years. I'm calling it Rent My Brain, for people just to book me for an hour or an hour and a half and talk about whatever they want, brainstorm, workshop an idea they're having. And I've landed 3 beta clients. And it's like, what do you mean nothing's changed for me? Like these are huge changes. I'm making more shitty art at the kitchen table. I'm getting more comfortable shit posting onto my Instagram feed, which has been a big challenge for me. I'm being more honest. I'm asking more for what I need. I'm initiating very difficult conversations in my personal life. And it's like, to Julia Cameron's point, it's not always going to look how you think it's going to look. And this was a tough journey for me, but I couldn't be prouder of how it went, even though the path wasn't a straight line. I'm so happy with where it ended. Ended as if it stops. LOL.
You should be proud. When you said you've published your field notes 8 weeks in a row, that's amazing. I did not realize that's a lot. That's like basically the whole Artist Way journey. I didn't realize you started it like 4 weeks in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it felt like, something like, well, I'm going to just see what happens if I post these little notes. And it's like, no, this is like a cool thing that I'm doing. And before I forget, I owe you guys my first YouTube vlog. And so even though I have not filmed it or edited it, by the time that this episode is up, it will be live. And I'm saying that, and we're not allowed to cut this out of the episode. So if it's not live, I'm just going to eat the embarrassment. But head over to the show notes. We will have Anna's video, my video, everything that we've referenced, everything will be there.
I have to say, when we first started this journey, I could see how stuck you were. Like a lot of the defending of the way things needed to be. I could hear it every week when we were on these sessions. And I had to like jump out of coaching mode and just let you have your own experience. Very much like Let Them, invoking Mel Robbins. And so to see you last week post like the dumbest reel to your feed, I was like, fuck yes, MJ, let's go.
Literally. And you know what? That dumbass reel of my silly art has like twice the amount of views.
I knew it would the minute I saw it, because that's how it goes, right? It's so cool to see things shifting for you too. It's amazing to get to do this journey with somebody who you believe in, you admire, and to see you start to move some of your blocks to the side and just charge through them is really cool. And it's inspiring for me too.
Thank you. Oh my God. I know. And it's cool that I feel like we've made a lot of individual progress, but that's the amazing part, is any ounce of progress that you make or I make immediately benefits internet people and what we're growing together. And while I feel like our personal progress has been at the center of this journey, so much has changed in the business.
So much has changed in the business. Oh my God. I would say almost, because doing the artist's way was such a focus for us that it kind of took the pressure off of other aspects of our business too. So when we started this, we were deep already into our zine, which is now out. It's live. So it's the Overthinker's Guide to Getting Started. So basically, we just took a big old gulp of our own medicine. But it's interesting because a lot of the stuff, in hindsight, a lot of the stuff that Julia Cameron talks about is exactly what we put in this zine. Did you notice that? Or like, have you had any thoughts about that?
I did. It's funny because I noticed it as we were going through the artist way, like, oh, we have been saying this just in a different way. We're not saying the exact same thing, but we would get to a chapter and be like, oh, reading deprivation, this is about tech rest and overstimulation.
Yes. Or even like talking about your standards being way too high. and your success metrics being fucked. And some of the other things that we have in the zine, one of the chapters in the zine that I really love is the one on destination happiness. Like trying to plan for this one day future version of you that doesn't have any problems is just pointless. It doesn't get you any closer to your goal. And I think a lot of the beginning of the artist's way is kind of untangling that knot, that fantastical promise that there will be a one day when your creativity feels fully unblocked and you are free.
And while it's similar to the sentiments that she's writing about, we really wanted this to feel like a cute little reference guide you can keep on your desk and flip through when you're feeling those voices creep back up. So you can flip it open to whatever chapter you're struggling with. Maybe it's overthinking. Maybe it's that you're not trusting that the small actions you're taking every day are going to yield anything. Maybe it's that you're overwhelmed by the thought of all the big dreams that you have. Maybe you're spiraling because you're taking something way too personally. Like we've thought of pretty much everything that bogs us down on the creative path, and we've written a short essay for you.
When you were talking earlier about how the artist's way has a lot of grounded practical examples for the theory, I was thinking about how when we wrote each of these essays, that was like at the forefront of our mind is, okay, here's this concept that we know to be true. How do we break it down in a way that will land with people and make sense for the specific situation that you're in? So, for example, I'm going to read you a little section from the zine. Destination happiness sounds like it'll be easier to start my YouTube channel once I get the $2,000 camera that all the vloggers have. It sounds like I'll be able to grow my Instagram once I move into a more aesthetic apartment. It sounds like writing my novel will feel so much easier after I go to that writer's retreat. Or once I figure out the perfect strategy and system, I'll be able to be consistent. We have several other examples in there. That last one, once I figure out the perfect strategy and system, I'll be able to be consistent. That one sounds like what you were just talking about with your big block.
Yeah, that is my big block. What do you mean? Sounds like what I was talking about. That's exactly what I was talking about. That is the big block. That's literally who this book is for. It's like creative people who want to start a YouTube channel and want to be writing for Substack and have this creative energy. And it's so stuck inside of you that you're trying to formulate a plan, but you don't even know what the creative energy is yet. Like this zine is for you. It's for internet people. It's for digital creatives. It's for artists, entrepreneurs, and anybody who has something bubbling inside of them that they want to see come to life. And you just don't know how. But you know it's in your head. You know that you are the thing standing in your own way. These are 10 pep talks to get you moving.
Can I tell you the funniest thing I saw on our Internet People Substack yesterday? You might have seen this. It was a note actually that you posted that was something along the lines of, I'm begging all the little ADHD squirrels out there to be weirder and more unhinged or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was, I'm begging all of you ADHD squirrels to be as weird as you possibly can online.
There's a comment that says, but how? But how can somebody please give me the 5-step roadmap to be weirder on the internet?
No, babe.
That is our perfect customer right there.
We should just reply with a link. You know what? We're going to send you this one for free, actually. What's your address?
Yeah, it's the Overthinking will really get you. Overthinker's Guide to Getting Started is $22. We think you should get it. We think you're going to like it.
We're so proud of it. This started out as a book proposal that our agents loved and said, you know what? We can talk publishing when you guys grow your brand. So we made it into a zine.
Because we're impatient. And also because it's good. Also, I think the zine coming out while we're doing the artist's way was like such cool serendipity too, to have something physical, tangible. Everything that we've done so far for this business has been digital. And as we continue to really explore our offline practices too, this feels like the right time to have something like this exist in our ecosystem.
And this took us so fucking long to write, you guys. So shout out to past us who were saying we're two stuck little babies. Shout out to those two for putting this together, because it wouldn't have come out during the artist's way had we not put our whole ass into it in the months before.
Some of the other big things that have happened for our business too is we really took the pressure off of a lot of the ways that we thought we were supposed to do things. I think when you run an online business, it almost feels like there's a formula for how you're supposed to do things. Like you're supposed to have a lead magnet that then goes to your email list that then you're selling digital courses through. And all of that stuff is great for the people who it's working for, but that hasn't always felt like the right thing for us. And I think there's a certain level of creative confidence that we've cultivated in the last 12 weeks that has enabled us to say like, okay, realistically, what's the bottom line here? That's a question we started asking for the business that we weren't asking before, which is, okay, what's the end goal for this thing that we're doing?
What's the point of this action we are thinking we have to be taking? We're thinking we have to be posting to Instagram, to the feed, to the stories from the business account. Why do we think that? Is it working? Is it worth our time and energy? Like, we really started questioning a lot of what we were assuming to be the right way.
Those two questions, is this working? Is this worth our time and energy? Those questions have become the most important questions that we're asking for our business. And I wish more business owners would start asking themselves that question, because there's so many times that we're just kind of doing busy work that's not actually that effective. So a great example would be every week on Wednesday when the newsletter would go out, the podcast would go up, I would go over to stories and I would post on Instagram stories. And it would take me about an hour and some change to get those up. It's not a light lift, by the way. And for what, right? How many clicks? How many interactions? Are we getting subscribers? Like, these are all the questions we're asking, because the point of this is to get people to listen to the podcast. The other point is to get subscribers on our email list, to get people to read our newsletter that we put so much love into every single week. And since we moved to Substack, we have noticed a huge change since we started using notes and the power of notes and how we can get subscribers from a single note. And about half of our email list is now on Substack. And so that energy I was putting into making stories, why don't I just channel that into Substack instead? And so I've been doing that for almost 2 weeks now. And it has been so like wildly more successful to do that, to the point where we talked about this on our last episode, but we've just kind of decentered Instagram as like the social media platform that helps our business grow. And it seems like that's the platform you're supposed to double down on, but it's not necessarily the right one for us to be doubling down on.
Right. We've also been spiraling about how to get clips of the podcast on Instagram. Why? To grow the podcast. Okay, well, we don't have a production team. We are a 2-person team recording on Zoom. We do have nice microphones, but we don't have all of the help that we would need to produce these really high quality clips for social. And so we were forcing it for a few weeks. I was doing my best to try to create reels that didn't look super grainy and could potentially ride the algorithm a little bit, but none of it worked. It felt too hard. And so we had a conversation just yesterday about, okay, we want to grow the podcast and we have this video footage. What else can we do with it? If we're decentering Instagram, what else can we do with it? So we're putting it on YouTube, which was 2 minutes into the conversation, an immediate yes. An immediate yes. And I think it just goes to show that it's worth running the experiment to see how it goes. It's worth trying to put some clips onto Instagram. It's worth trying to put those stories up. But to some extent, you've got to reevaluate. You've got to go back and look at how the experiment went. What were the results and how did I feel during it? And both of them are important. And that's what I think we've gotten a lot better at. We're trusting ourselves more to pivot over to YouTube, over to Substack, even though we know that most people are like, no, you gotta focus on Instagram. Instagram's where it's at. We're trusting what we think is right now.
One of the things that we have really gotten much better at through the journey of the artist's way is admitting and accepting when something isn't working. And it's something I wish that I could go back and tell us a year ago or 2 years ago and say, it's okay if this isn't working, find something else. Because it almost feels like a death in a way to let go of something that you thought was going to work for you.
And I think our first practice at this was not too long ago, probably a few months before we started the Artist Way. We spent a lot of time putting a quiz together, And we noticed that our immediate community really liked the quiz. And even some people were taking it 2, 3, 4 times to try to get different answers, as people do. And we noticed, we're like, okay, why are these numbers kind of stalling out? Why isn't this quiz doing what we thought it was going to do, what we wanted it to do, which was to grow our newsletter? And we realized, well, this quiz is only circulating within our immediate community, and these people are already on the newsletter. It's feeling too hard to continue putting up all the time to get people to go take it. And we let that shit go when it had only been live for like a month. And I think we're not taking it personally anymore. Like, if something's not working, it's fine. Let's just figure out what to do from here. It doesn't mean anything about the business or about us. It's just not working. And I think that kind of honesty.
I will say, I don't think we've never really taken things personally.
Agreed.
But that honesty of, hey, this isn't working, let's stop it. That's a new thing for us.
Yeah.
Because even a couple of weeks ago when we had the conversation about Instagram, like putting up video clips of the podcast, it isn't working. It doesn't feel like it's working. Or, okay, so then I'm doing this thing. Let's talk about it. it. Is that working? Is that worth it? And really just evaluating where our energy is going. Because when you are a two-person team or a solo founder, or you just don't have the support you need, understanding where your energy is being used irresponsibly is everything. It's everything.
And I think that's what I mean by taking it personally. Like, it's not a bad thing about you. It doesn't mean anything about us if we're like, hey, actually, maybe we don't need to meet on Thursdays because it's better for both of us to have a day off. It doesn't mean that we're not as dedicated to the business. Like, it doesn't have all these implications that one might think, like, oh, I'm stepping away from Instagram. It means I've failed at Instagram. No, it doesn't. Like, it just means that it's not working and we need to pivot. Like, that's it. That's as deep as it has to be.
Totally. And all of this stuff really is just getting over the traditional acceptable way of thinking about things. Instagram is a great example. Like, well, maybe our business never grows that huge on Instagram, but it might grow huge on Substack. That doesn't make it any less valuable.
Right.
But we might have this weird little brain worm that says that it is, that it's less worthy.
Right.
Same thing with what you just mentioned. We, for the last couple of years, have been meeting every single day of the week, pretty much. And in the last few weeks, have given ourselves Thursday afternoons off and Friday mornings off. And it has been so good for both of us. We're both feeling much more expansive and able to give to ourselves creatively rather than just grinding on the business to no end. And it's been great for you, me, and the business. But the traditional business advice would be like, stay in it, be in the business all the time, constantly. Like, our Thursday afternoon meeting was a product development meeting, which was a great meeting to have while we were actively developing products, but we're not actively developing a product at this moment. Let's take the meeting off the calendar for now.
In the name of making sure that you and I both feel good. And I think that feels like a lot of what your work has been about over the past few months, about how you feel in your everyday life. And as sensitive, creative artists, entrepreneurs, people who are doing a vulnerable thing and sharing their life on the internet, like, we have to feel good. We can't be out here feeling like shit, feeling tired and exhausted, and then expect ourselves to come up with these genius ideas and execute on them. Like, more is not always more. We're just going full circle here with the bare minimum. More is not more. Like, sometimes you have to dial it back to hit the sweet spot. That's going to give you back the capacity you need to actually do the things that you want to be doing. All right, before we wrap this up, we want to shout out some of you guys from the community, because so many of you have been doing this along with us. Whether you're keeping up with the weeks with us or not, we see all of you, and you guys are a big reason why we maintained the motivation and momentum we needed to finish this thing. So yesterday, Anna put up a story on our Instagram and asked for feedback. What have you guys done? What have you guys learned? What's happened in your lives since starting? And we got some really awesome responses. Carrie is somebody that's been right there with us on Substack. She has been publishing her ass off, and we see you. We love your writing. She said that she's writing a lot more, creating a lot more. She's dedicating more time to having fun. She's even started a book club. She's been going on more artist dates and taking her rest more seriously. She's learning to embrace the creative process and take the step to be bad at something and be okay with that. She's writing poetry. She's knitting again. I mean, hello? Huge. This is huge.
Even just taking the step to be bad at things more often, that's
hard.
That's hard.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Go, Carrie.
And then we have Megan, same situation. Megan is all over Instagram. She's all over Substack. Like, it truly feels like there's been a handful of people who have been on the same path as us, almost like really right there with us. And Megan, you are definitely one of those people. She said she went back to therapy. She's working on starting a new business, finding a new job. She said she used up an entire journal for the first time. Can we get some applause? That's a big deal. That's a big deal.
Megan has been doing these weekly roundups on Instagram, these gorgeous carousels. We see them. Thank you for tagging us in them, Megan. We're so proud of you.
Mariella said that her biggest takeaway was to be more unserious with her art every day. Amelia said that she's been taking her writing seriously enough to finish an 80,000 word draft of a novel.
Casual?
Excuse me. How do you just drop that into a Q&A box on an Instagram story so casually like that? Holy shit.
Shout out.
Kate said she's getting more ideas down on paper instead of letting them get lost amongst her brain cells. Love that for you. Same here.
Yep, same here.
And Danielle, who's been in our community forever, she said she's a bit behind on week 9. You are not behind, by the way. Whenever you do end up listening to this episode, you're right on time, babe. She said she started to be more creative and has a bunch of little hobbies. And we love hobbies. Hobbies was a big theme in the book. So love to hear this from all of you.
You guys are so cool. Thank you for doing it with us. Obviously, this is not an easy journey to do. And like MJ said, wherever you're at in the process is exactly where you're supposed to be. I came across somebody saying that they use the Artist Way more like a reference book, which I think is probably the way to do it. Once you get down the information, you remember where things are, the things that impacted you. But what I will say is probably yearly for the foreseeable future, I will do the bare minimum to at least read the text because there's so much good stuff in there, even if you don't do all of the extras. You can get so much out of just simply reading and absorbing and putting some of these lessons into practice.
And I'll add to that. I feel at the end of every season itchy. It's like this thing that I just have come to learn is a seasonal thing for me now, where I'm feeling like I want to burn everything down and start anew and chop my hair off and get a new wardrobe. And I've learned that that's when it's time for me to reevaluate the experiments I've been running for the past 3 months. And the springtime is always the most severe of this feeling for me, which makes complete sense going from winter to spring. Of course, that I'm feeling that way. I'm so glad that we did this at this time in the year. And it feels like such a great January read, like end of winter read. Highly recommend.
Yeah, you're right. It definitely is a really good time of year to do it, especially because you're like in the doldrums of winter anyway. Yeah, it's a good one. So thanks for joining us on the Bare Minimum Artist Way. This was super fun. If you guys had any big changes that happened from doing this, please feel free to DM us, email us, reach out to us on Substack.
Yeah, just because the series is coming to an end and we're not going to be putting out any more episodes about it specifically, this project is not over for us. We're going to keep talking about it. We're going to keep inviting more people to start this journey and read the articles and use the podcast as weekly companions. So if you're hearing this a year later, our DMs are always open for you. Hit us up on Substack. Let us know how it's going for you. And we can't wait to see what's next for both of us, for you guys, for the business. We've been already plotting and scheming. Although now, do we want to use those words? I don't know. We've been thinking about our next podcast.
No, we've been
series.
plotting and scheming.
Yeah, no,
we're not thinking about it.
We've definitely been plotting and scheming. Who are we kidding? But we have some cool stuff in store for you on the podcast. So we might be MIA for a couple weeks. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know.
Don't say that. We are. We are taking a break for a couple of weeks. We need to rest. We need to integrate. So even though we will not be in your feed, we'll be back with a really exciting series that's coming up next. That's probably another thing we got out of the Artist's Way was doing a series was really fun for us.
Projects with an ending. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. Anyway.
We love you guys. Thanks for being here. And we'll see you around the internet.
Bye.
That was really good.
Perfect.